Hi guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Matt Garvey and we are here to talk about making comics. Now in today's video we are going to be talking about your dreams, your goals and your expectations when it comes to comics, because Jack Kirby famously said that comics will break your heart, kid. So hopefully in this video I'm going to show you ways to not let that happen to you. Now, I started the video by quoting Jack Kirby, and if some of you guys out there don't know who Jack Kirby is, there is no shame in it, because if you don't know, you don't know. And that's what's one of the great things about doing videos like this, is I can open your eyes and educate you guys into, other things that are happening, so other stuff to check out. Basically, you've probably heard of Stan Lee because of all of his cameos in the films and stuff like that. Stan Lee used to write the comics and Jack Kirby used to draw the comics. So between them, they pretty much created the Marvel universe as we know it. If you do the list, together they created Iron Man, the Hulk, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four. Jack Kirby also created Captain America with Joe Simon as well. So he played a massive part in creating the MCU as we know it. Me personally, I am a huge Jack Kirby fan, so this video is not a slight on him at all. How big a fan do you think? Well, you don't have comics this big of a creator if you're not a big fan of them. But me personally, I'm more of a fan of the comics that Jack created on his own when he left Marvel and went to DC. Comics like Mr. Miracle, like I've just shown, and Etrigan the Demon, and all the Fourth World comics that he did. And he's a big inspiration of me. Unfortunately, times have changed, but back in the day, Jack wasn't treated very great in the comic industry. And, if you want to know more about this, I've just finished, Mark Evaner's, Jack Kirby King of Comics book, and I totally recommend that. But unfortunately, as I said, Jack wasn't treated too well, and that was the inspiration for this video, because I wanted to do a video to talk about your goals, your dreams, and your expectations with comics, because, comics is fun, but it's a lot of hard work, and I see a lot of disappointment out there. So that's the reason for this video today. Now, I've been making comics for a long time, and I love making comics. Whether I'm writing comics, or lettering comics, or coloring comics, or selling comics, I just love making comics. And unfortunately, over the last few years of doing this, I've noticed a lot of my friends, my colleagues, my peers, either online or at Comic Cons, feel a little bit downtrodden, a little bit heartbroken, because they haven't technically, broken into comics in the way that they perceive that they would after, doing this for a number of years. And, I just want to send a message to them and to you, even if I haven't met you and you've been making comics out there in YouTube world, dude, you're awesome. You're making comics. Most people just think about comics, or, talk about making comics and never actually do it. The fact that you are making comics is fantastic. So please keep making comics. You are awesome. Just keep doing it. Now, what I'm going to talk about next is just my opinion. You can take it or leave it. In my heart, this is what I believe. The right mental attitude you need to have with regards to comics, so that comics does not break your heart, because I don't want you to be one of them creators that always feel so angry that they haven't broken in. And I swear, by doing this, you're going to be a lot happier as a creator. So what you need to do is you need to look at yourself and work out that what are your goals when it comes to making comics, because most people think their goal is to work for a Marvel or a DC, and if that is your goal, you can do it. It happens every day. Those companies sign new writers, new artists, that kind of thing. But there is a lot of work involved in doing that. And, I know people that have been making comics for, close to a decade before they've actually started getting any traction in the comics industry. And they're seen as overnight successes, because people go, well, they came out of nowhere. But what they don't see is all the work that they've been doing for the last few years, trying to get to that standard. But how I see it is, my goal is to put out the best comics I can possible. That is my goal. My dream is to work for a Marvel or a DC, or to have, someone like Image put a book out. That's my dream. That is what, in an ideal world, that would be amazing. But for me as a creator, my goal is just to put out the best possible comics I can. I want comics to go on the shelves at comic shops that look as good as Marvel and DC, that people enjoy. For me, breaking into comics literally was, a couple of years ago when I was at a Comic Con. A lady came up to me on the Friday morning. I think she was like one of my first customers. She came and bought a copy of the Ether, and literally The next day, she came up to my table again, and I thought she was going to want her money back. You know, she didn't like what she read. But she actually came up and said, I had to come back because I wanted to thank you for writing that comic. And I was nearly in tears by that, because I never thought that I could create something that meant so much to someone else. I mean, comics have meant that to me over the years. You know, there are comics that have broken my heart, comics that I've absolutely loved and, you know, have aspired to, you know, be as great as them. But for a complete stranger that has paid me for a comic that I've created to come back and tell me that she liked it so much she wanted to thank me for making that comic, for me, that's it. You know, that was me breaking, and I'm happy with that. Do you know what I mean? So that's how I see that as you know, what I want from comics. And it's happened a few more times since then. You know, I've sold comics at Comic Cons and people have come back, or someone's bought a comic online or read it digitally on Comixology or something like that, and they've contacted me and said, do you know what, I absolutely love what you've done. And for me as a creator, that's amazing, because I'm quite a selfish person when it comes to comics, because I make the comics that I want to create. I tell the stories that I want to tell. I make the comics that if I saw on a shelf at a comic shop, I would buy. So the fact that other people are getting that enjoyment out of them, for me, that's it. That's making comics. So that's what I wanted to say in this video. But as I said, you know, if you want to work for a Marvel and DC and that is your goal, you can do it. You know, over the years, I've seen some incredibly talented creators, you know, at Comic Cons, you know, and online, you know, that just dip their toes into making comics, you know, and they're putting out some of the best comics I've ever seen. And then, you know, after, you know, doing it for a couple of years, you know, they fade away because they give up, because, you know, they haven't broken into comics. And I know in my head that they're only probably, you know, one comic or two comics away, you know, from being seen and being discovered. And for me, that's heartbreaking. And I don't want that from you guys that are watching this video. You know, I want you to enjoy comics and enjoy making them. So, you know, that's the aspect that you enjoy. That is your goal. So keep making them, keep enjoying them. And then if the other stuff comes along, absolutely fantastic. But if you're happy with just making comics and putting them out there, you're going to be a happier creator. You know, the one thing that people don't talk about breaking into comics is it's damn hard. You know, it's you know, one doesn't simply walk into Mordor, even though kind of Frodo and Sam actually did at the end of that film. But comics is Mordor, and comics is really, really tough because there is no set way to getting into comics. So you need to be prepared. If you know, if working for Marvel and DC is your goal, isn't your dream, it's your goal, that's something that you're focused and you want to do, you need to put the effort in. And you know, it comes with a lot of work and a lot of sacrifice, because it's like doing this video. Doing this video, you know, is time that I could spend with my family. But I'm doing it because I enjoy it and I want to, you know, share some kind of knowledge that I've got to help other creators on, you know, on their way up. But comics is the same. If you want to break into comics and, you know, you want to work in comics, you need to make sacrifices. You need to, you know, is it a choice of going, you know, out with your friends to the pub tonight, or are you going to be sitting in writing on, you know, drawing pages? You know, if you're serious about making comics, it's the latter. Now, as well as talking about your goals and your dreams, we also need to talk about your expectations about what you want from comics and when it's going to happen. Because honestly, I cannot tell you how many times that I've been at a Comic-Con when a writer has come up to me and handed me a copy of their first comic and said to me, if this doesn't get me working comics, or this doesn't break me in, I'm done. And you know what? That is totally the wrong attitude to have, because when creators are starting out, for some reason, and I was guilty of this as well. You know, when you make your first comic, you think the bouncer that's standing behind the velvet rope of comics of the comic industry is going to go, you're on the list. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. You know, I'm 25 issues in within my career and I still haven't achieved my dreams. And, you know, you need to be more realistic about, you know, what you want. And it goes back to what I was saying before. It's like, what does breaking into comics mean to you? If it is that, you may need to change, you know, what your expectations are from the comic industry. Because as I said before, you know, I know friends that have been working in this industry for, you know, like 10 years. And only now are they starting to, you know, get work and stuff like that. So we need to be more realistic about what you want from comics. So that's the one thing I want you to take away from this video. I want you to go away and I want you to be realistic, and I want you to look at your goals, your dreams, and your expectations of what you want from comics. Because again, it's just my opinion, but if you think that's a good opinion to have, my goal is to just make the best comics I possibly can. And if you share that goal, you are never going to be unhappy with making comics. Comics are never going to break your heart because you're doing what you love, and it's going to share joy with other people that read them. But if your goal is to work for Marvel and DC, that's not a problem at all. We can work towards that, and then in the next video, I'm going to share some tips and tricks of helping you to do that, whether you're a writer or an artist. So, stay tuned for that. Hit that bell and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss that video. But hopefully you found this video useful and I haven't poo-pooed on too many dreams, because that's not what I really wanted to do with this. I just wanted to have a realistic conversation about, what comics are, because it is an incredibly hard industry to break into. And you know what, once you've broken in, some people have to keep breaking in. So it's very, very hard, and I just wanted to put that out there because I don't want you to be disappointed, I don't want you to be heartbroken, and I don't want you to stop making comics, because it's so much fun to make comics. Okay, so that's it for today, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed that, hopefully you found it useful. I will see you in the next video, and I'm going to keep saying it, and I'm going to say in every single video that I do, if I can make comics, anyone can. You take care of yourself, and I'll see you soon.